mean, some of you guys already know my husband. It's my husband, Giancarlo, and you can introduce yourself.
My name is Giancarlo, owner of GCA Reno Inc. I've been doing renovations for over 10 years. I've had the business open for about 7 or 8 now. Basically, I used to be a millwright mechanic. I got fed up with the politics. One day I just gave up, quit. Thanks to the wife. She said, she's open up a company. You enjoy what you do. And I did, and I've never looked back since. Love what I do it every day. And it's, for me, it's it's not work. It's actually fun for me. Every time is something different, something, it could be the exact same layout, same jobs and everything, but there's always something different to look for. And so for me, it's a lot of fun, and that's what I do for a living.
Yep. So do you want to, I guess, should we start with how to view, like what to look for on the outside of the property?
Sorry, how are you doing?
Pardon me?
Sorry about that. I'm just gonna go on mute.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, what I recommend usually when we go look, for example, when Diana and I go look at properties, first thing we look for, obviously, is the outside. So when we walk through, first thing you see is the roof. You got to inspect the roof. You can visually inspect it, see if you got loose shingles, any of that kind of stuff. Then you inspect the gutters. Make sure the gutters are not wonky and going up and down all over the place and not separated from the house, because that could create water damage on the inside of your house. Another thing to do is if you walk around the house, you always have a pitch either going away from the house or towards the house. And by that, I mean the floor, like the ground. It's always good to look at and make sure that the ground is moving away from the house, because that could also prevent future damage from water or roots or any of that kind of stuff. Normally, I encourage that when you do the walk around on the outside, look for the basement windows and look on the bottom corners. Look for splits or cracks, because that will create problems down the road, especially with the winters that we have. Once water gets in there and it freezes, concrete's strong, but water's stronger. It'll split it right open, and you're gonna get foundation problems. Also, a good measure to look at the bricks, look for holes, cracks. You're always gonna find some stress cracks on brick. It just happens. But if you got a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch stress crack, that's no longer a stress crack. That could be an actual structural issue. So that's something to really look for and be careful with. And lastly, on the outside, I mean, other than making sure that it's clean, nice, big property, I always inspect the AC lines. So for your air conditioning, make sure there's no condensation, they're not frozen. Because those are some things, sometimes if you go in winter time, the AC is not running, so you don't know if it's working or not. But if you see condensation or if you see frozen lines, that's a big indication that your AC is not working. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the outside of the house.
Okay, sorry. Trying to get everyone in. But okay, that's good. Anyone have any, oh yeah, you guys have questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Like, for example, our house in Niagara Falls, we want to redo the siding, but there's the kind of the stone at the front. You guys saw the house. The stone at the front. So would you, I know this may be a style question, but would you just cover it all up with new siding, or would you leave the stone there, and just replace the rest of the siding?
I mean, that's all preference.
Preference?
It's preference. Yeah. I mean, for the siding, either way, when you do siding, I mean, I don't really do exterior work, but when you do siding, it's all preference. What you have to do is you got to cover it with the insulation. That gets attached to the wall, and after that, you do your Tyvek wrap, all that stuff, and then you put the siding on. But that's preference. I mean, if you have a nice stone at the bottom and you pick the right color for siding, it might look nice. If you have limited amounts of color or styles for the siding, what you can do is you get a sample piece, put it against it, step back, look at it, and then you can see, hey, you know what, that looks great, let's do it. Or you know what, maybe we should cover it up, right? That's it's preference.
Okay.
And
I have a
Dwayne
question
had,
too.
or Sir Steve, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so what about windows? Like, how do you go about determining like the lifetime, or like if the windows are gonna be like good for much longer or not?
So most windows will actually have a sticker on the outside perimeter of the window, and it'll tell you the date it was manufactured, right? Then it depends if it's a double pane window, single pane. It does vary from window to window. Normally, from the outside, it's kind of hard to tell unless you're climbing up and looking. That's something that it's easier to do from the inside of the house. So you look for either condensation in between the two glasses. So that means you got a leak on the gas, so there's no more gas between the two windows. So between the two glasses, the two planes of glass. You also look at the corners of the windows. When you go see a house, if that window ledge is spotless, normally that means you got to take a closer inspection and take a closer look. If you see dust and dirt on it and it hasn't been cleaned for a while, then it's a lot easier to tell that if you got damage or not. Because sometimes people just cover it up, clean it nice, do a quick coat of paint, so you can't tell if there's damage. So if there is damage, a good measure to do is right in the corner of the windows, right below where the drywall is, give it a little knock. If it sounds hollow, right, or if it sounds damp or feels damp, then you have some water issues or it's something you have to consider. If it's rock solid, that drywall, then you should be okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And so Dwayne, you had a question?
Yeah, my question was actually regarding the air conditioning lines when you were saying that they were frozen. I missed the first part. My internet went down and I got kind of bounced out.
Mm-hmm.
So you were saying about how you tell whether the air conditioning is no good or?
Yes. So basically, you have your inlet and your outlet, right? Your inlet line is a small one. Your outlet is the big one. That's the way. So basically, when you touch it, one line should be cold, one line should be warm. That's how you know that it's circulating properly and it's working properly. Because the Freon gas, as it returns into the condenser, which is the big unit outside, that's warm. As it goes back in, it goes in cold, right? So a good way to check is if you see ice forming over top, then that means either you got a leak, you got not enough Freon, or too much Freon, right? So that's something to look for and to consider. For the ACs, it's always good measure to see you have the foam covering over top, right? All you gotta do is just peel it back a little bit, touch them, make sure one's warm, one's cold. Even in the winter time, you'll still tell the difference between the cold one and the warm one.
Any other questions? Or should we go on, or any other general questions about outside?
And how long do you, like, is it just about the condition of the windows, or how long do you generally, like, at what point do you replace them?
So windows really depend on the manufacturer and again the plane of if it's double plane, triple plane. There's some windows that will last you 50 years. There's some windows that'll last you 5 years. That's basically like on window per window. You got to check each window individually and see the manufacturing date. Normally, windows will last you 15 years without having any gas leaking out or any of that stuff. And I mean, a good window can last you 50 years. It really depends on the manufacturer.
Any other questions for outside work? No, I think we're good. So I guess the next question would be, what do you look for inside the house?
So the first thing that, again, with Diana and I go look at properties, or when I'm doing renovations, just on my side of the business, first thing that you notice when you walk in the house is the smell. So if it smells musty or moist or damp, that's an indication that you might have water damage. You might have previous water damage, or that your furnace is not up to date, which is something to look for. Another thing that's important to look for is you look for the floors. Look at the floors, and the floor should be level throughout the entire house. You don't want to see the floor going like this and then all of a sudden doing a dip. That could mean either you got rotted beams, you got some structural damage, the house is settled too much. That could give you a lot of issues down the line. Same thing with the ceiling. The ceiling, you want to look at it, make sure that it's perfectly straight, no dips or gaps or any of that kind of stuff. Obviously, we look for water damage. The water damage, we would look on the ceilings first, then on the floors. I strongly recommend when you're walking through the house, for example, if the kitchen is tiled and you have a floor register for your heating and air conditioning, if you remove that register and you look underneath, you should be able to see where the tiles are, the subfloor, the concrete. If you look there and you see water damage, that's an indication that it was done poorly, and you might have water damage coming from somewhere else. That's always good to look for in the bathrooms and in kitchens, because those are wet areas. So if you got on the vent, if you got water damage, then almost for sure you're gonna have water damage in between. Another way to tell is to look at the grout. So you look at the grout on the tiles. When you get a lot of cracking of the grout, it could mean that it was not installed properly. So what you can do by then is you just go and you get a metal pen or something, and you just tap the tile. It should sound solid. If it's hollow, that means it wasn't installed properly, and that could give you problems down the line. Also, things that I look for, you look at the door frames, window frames, usually on the top corners. Make sure there's no cracks. There's been no repairs. A lot of times when the house settles, you can get a small fracture, a small crack. It happens when houses settle and stuff. But if you have big gaps on top of the doors, windows, that means your house is settling too rapidly, or you have some structural issues with your floors where your floors are kind of getting uneven. So it's putting a lot of stress on those areas. That's something to really look for. If it's something that you're looking to buy, I always recommend pick a random plug, pick a random switch. You don't have to be an electrician, but you just remove the cover and you just with a flashlight you look inside. If they tell you that that it's been all copper and everything's been upgraded, when you pick two random plugs, it should all be copper. You don't have to really know too much about it. Like, I mean, if you're uncomfortable with it, you can always call an electrician. The electrician will come and take a look at it. But that's something to look at as well. I look at, let's see, floors uneven, that stuff. Sorry, I made a bunch of notes just to kind of be prepared, so I didn't forget stuff. So just bear with me. Also, we're talking about the switches, the random switch and random plug. It's always good to take a look at the fuse panel. Again, you don't have to be an electrician to know if it's a switch panel or the old bulb styles, to see if it's copper or aluminum. Everybody thinks that aluminum is horrible and it should be changed. It's not. I mean, the problem is if you're putting a new fixture and it's copper and you're putting it to aluminum, if you don't do it properly and you don't put a dielectric grease on it, you can actually create spark and it will catch on fire. All your hydro lines, all that stuff, it's aluminum. So people think that aluminum is horrible for the house. It's not. It's just codes have changed. So now everybody's going to copper because it's more malleable and it doesn't break as easy. But the panel box is something to look for. Another thing is when you're walking around, go in the kitchen, go in the bathrooms, open the bottom cupboards, look inside, see if it's copper, see if it's brass. Sometimes, if it's an older home, you might have galvanized steel for your water lines. You might have lead. Look at if it's a house and not a condo. Condos are different because condos have brass plumbing. But for houses, make sure that it's all ABS. Look for water damage below the sinks. What else? If possible, look in the attic and the crawl spaces. Normally, 3-inch insulation is what's required. If you do a lot more than 3 inches, a lot better because you lose less heat, less air. You don't need, it's more efficient. If you're looking at a house and they don't let you look at an area, it's always something to be wary of. Like if somebody says, "Oh no, you can't look in the attic," or "Oh no, you can't look in that room," you should be careful because it could be that it's either damaged or there's something wrong with that area. Moving on to the basement, I do look at if the basement's not finished. Look at the surrounding foundation. Right, take a walk with a flashlight. Take your time. You're always going to have some sort of stress crack. Stress cracks usually travel from left to right, right to left. When you have a foundation crack where you might have a leak, you got to make sure that that gap is no more than 3/16. So maybe if you put a 2 and a quarter together, and you can fit that to that gap, then you might have an issue. If it's a stress crack, it'll just be a hairline stress crack down the line, not a big issue. And yeah, that's about it.
Anyone have any questions? So Emily has a question. I'll read hers out. She says, our house is 12 years old, but windows are already starting to have moisture. Called the builder and they said they won't guarantee, but the supplier might, and they are not helpful to give exact details of the supplier. They just said either Pollard or I don't know what that is. Jade Wind.
I don't know what you're reading. Oh, Pollard windows.
And so the question is, called Polar Windows and they said look for the code. Hubby was trying to find out, but not available. How do you find out this code, and do you think this will be covered by warranty?
So Pollard is a pretty well-known company. Actually, they've done our neighbor's house. They do good work. When it comes to builders and warranties, we've had pretty horrible experiences with those. So I wish you the best of luck. Like I said, normally on the edges of the window, if you look inside of between the planes, you will see a little barcode with a manufacturing date. That should tell you the name of the manufacturer, the style of window or model of the window, and that's what you need to look for before you can call Pollard or Brock Windows or whoever it is that installed the windows. If the house is 12 years old, I don't know who your builder is and what warranties they can give you. But I mean, it's something to pursue, and you just got to keep bugging them. You just got to keep emailing them, bugging them, call them, because from our experience, we had a brand new house and we had nothing but issues. And then I called the supplier, and the supplier just kind of brushed me off, like, no, you're not getting nothing. And then once I told them, yes, I'm a renovator, this is what I do, this is done wrong, then they were there the next day, right, to fix the issue that they said they weren't going to fix.
But we were still under the warranty.
We were still on the warranty, yes.
The other, because normally with builder properties, you only get that 1 year after the build. Afterwards, I think, because even though fine, the company is reputable, but the problem usually is that the builders will get the cheapest materials from that specific company, and those materials may not come with the warranty, and usually that's the problem because they build them with no warranty, right? Well, so that usually kind of is the problem, isn't it?
They do come with warranty, but it's very limited. So you're looking at a year, maybe 3-year warranty on the windows. Best way to do it is, again, to check inside of the window, and then you'll see there's a little barcode with a little name and then the model number. That would be your best bet. and follow through. Just bug them, right? Eventually you'll get an answer.
Mhm. Anyone have any questions?
Quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I got our bathroom tiled recently, like with the around the tub and the flooring, and then I started noticing cracks just where the tub line is, like along the tub and at the bottom of the tub. Does that?
So where the
Yeah.
you're talking about where the tile and the tub meet,
Exactly.
right? And that's the grout.
Yes.
Okay, so the polymer grout that they used is probably not flexible enough.
Okay.
So that's why you're getting that. And normally, so when did you guys install the tub, or you had somebody come and do it?
I had someone else do it as well. Like they
Okay.
did the tub and the tiling together.
Yeah. Okay. Because so good practice is when you install the tub, it has to be secured to the wall, and then normally what a lot of people do is they grab a bag of concrete, they pour it in the middle, they put the tub on top, and that holds the tub from moving. A lot of contractors don't do that because it's heavy, it's a pain, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what we do is we use expansion foam, so it cradles the tub and it holds it in place, so it doesn't shift. So because you're getting that grout cracking all along,
Mhm.
what you can do, what color is your grout?
White.
White. Okay, so if you go to like a Lowe's or Home Depot or any of that stuff,
Mhm.
ask for a flexible grout. Yeah, they come in tubes, right? It's like a silicone tube almost. And then you just do one line, one bead right across. And then that should solve your cracking issue because you'll cover that up and the other one's flexible enough that you won't see that cracking anymore.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? So there's another question from Debbie, and she was asking about she's duplexing a place, and she specifically wants to know if so the electrician quoted her $4,000 to separate the meters for each unit, and it's a new reno, and she's just wondering if it's worth it, if the cost is worth it.
To separate the actual meters, the hydro meters.
Yeah, to separate it so it's 1 unit or 1 meter for each unit.
I mean, it's not necessary that you do that. It is a lot easier to manage who's using what and who's using more energy and more power than this. I don't know if utilities are included or if they're not included.
They're probably not.
If utilities are they included or are they not included?
Sorry, she's not. She couldn't make it.
Oh, okay.
So she's just asking because she couldn't seem to connect.
Yeah, I mean, if you rent with utilities included, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're paying for the bill, so it doesn't make a difference.
I guess the way that it becomes better with doing 2 meters is just for the fact of when you're sharing it, also the tenants may fight about it and won't like the fact that, oh, maybe like downstairs is using like way too much water or something and they don't like it. So usually when you're not using meters like that, you just include it so no one's fighting, and then you're kind of absorbing the cost, and you just make sure that the amount that you put in is covering your expenses. And then like if you want to make utilities separate, then it's way better to just separate those meters, because like that you start getting conflicts if you do plus utilities and it's one bill, because they'll like someone will be like, oh, that person's like always has like the AC on so high or the heating on maxing it out and they're making my bill more, right? So it really depends on the strategy that you decide, and that's how you decide, you know, if you want to put in that 4K, let's say for in her example with the 4K to just separate it, or you just leave it as one.
Also, 4K to separate the meters is not a bad price.
It's not. I thought it was more actually.
Yeah, it's not a bad price. So you're getting a deal. Just make sure that it's certified, and you know, I mean, he has to be certified because he has to be approved by CSA and all that stuff. Again, if you want a happy tenant, because right, you don't want to have issues and whatnot. So normally, what we would say is, yeah, you include everything. You do everything included. It's a lot easier. Sometimes you might have to eat the cost, but you know, it's the joys of owning a home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's if you want to keep track of it and you have like example, you have one person in the basement and you have a family of 5 upstairs, it would make sense to separate the meters, just because you don't want the one person paying for everybody else's hydro, right?
Yeah. And then just Dwayne made a comment, how long is she intending on holding on to this property? So I feel like, I don't know if that really matters so much, but I feel like the better, maybe like a better question is, or a better, yeah, maybe question is that, or to think about is the resale value, right? Because even you can have a legal duplex without the hydrometers in, and it's still legal, right? But it will like definitely have a good resale value, even if you add on top of that the hydrometers. I think would probably be better. So I guess it depends. It depends on that. Sorry, does someone have a question?
No.
Oh, so that's, I guess, kind of adding on to Dwayne's comment. I feel like it's more about the resale value. I guess again in short term, then the resale value is more because you know what you're getting for right now. Yeah. So does anyone?
I just think that long term, separating out the meters and having the tenants take care of it, it justifies the cost. Whereas if you're planning on dumping it shortly, well, right, it really depends on how much more money you're going to get on resale.
Yeah,
That's true,
I agree.
actually.
Yeah, I agree.
Or also that you said that it depends also on the kind of landlord you want to be too, because like if you prefer, there's some landlords that want, you know, that short-term tenant where they're probably hopefully replacing their tenant every 1 to 3 years. And they do that more for the rent because they want to maintain the rent. Since rents increase so high quickly, they want to be able to top that up, right? But then if you're one of those that you prefer, like, I don't want the hassle, like I want it to be long term, and then the rent is obviously going to go up but not as fast, then maybe having the utility separate is also better, just because you never know if you have it included into the rent. And you see how, you know, even the utilities and things will fluctuate. That can also kind of cause you problems too if you have it included and that person is there long term. So I guess things to think about when you're duplexing and wanting, or just even thinking about including the utilities or not. So does anyone else have any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, no problem.
It's about like back to the outside. I just remembered about driveways. So Kitchener-Waterloo started potentially like allowing like tiny homes, and then for that to occur, like let's say you have a duplex and a tiny home on your lot, you'd probably need like the double driveway. How much is it to like expand a single driveway to a double driveway?
It all depends. I mean, I don't do driveways, but I know roughly. It all depends if you want to do it in asphalt. You could do asphalt, concrete, brick. Your cheapest choice is asphalt.
Okay.
Depending on the area, I mean, maybe like a 40 by 25 foot driveway, at a decent price would probably be about $3,200.
Okay.
Right? And that would be removal and then put it in. It all depends by area, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it also it depends on who's giving you the quote. You have to get a few quotes.
Yeah, they have huge ranges. We've had our 2 driveways done, and like you get people to come in, and one's like way up here, the other one's way down there.
Yeah. So for one of our properties, we're in the process of getting the driveway done, and it's about 50 feet by 13 feet. But my neighbor wants to do it with us, so we called the closest guy that was there, someone local. They wanted $6,400 for the driveways, both of them. Right?
Okay.
I called the guy that did my driveway, and he charged $3,200 for both. So, so you gotta be careful on who. That's what I'm always saying. It's always better to get a few quotes. I even tell my own customers when I go and give them quotes for renovations, get a couple quotes, right? Figure it out. See what matches better. when you talk to the person, right? See their personality, see if they seem shady, if they seem nice. Ask a lot of questions,
Ask
right?
the neighbors. You know what happened to us last year, 2 years ago, when we did our driveway here? We picked someone to do our driveway. You know, they put the little post on there. Our neighbor drove by and told us, don't hire them. They had stress cracks all over their driveway, and they were having a hard time getting it redone again. So even like maybe talking to the neighbors is also a good thing to do, because we were lucky for that. Like imagine, like we would have been angry, right?
Yeah, it was 2 days before the guys are coming to remove. And my neighbor came and he's like, don't use these guys. They're like, come look at my house. Come look. And I went there, I looked, and I'm like, well, when did you have it done? He's like, I had it done 2 years ago. And I said, okay, you get a little stress crack here and there. It's normal. He's like, yeah, but it happened right away, and they still haven't come back to fix anything. So it's always, like, I mean, look around, see if a neighbor has a nice driveway. Ask them where they got it from, right?
And that's how long they've had it for, too, right? Because if they had it for like 5 years and it still looks nice, like they're probably someone you want to call.
Also, if you are thinking of doing asphalt, when you ask, make sure that you ask them how thick the asphalt will be. It should be about 3 inches. Some of them will just give you like an inch, and then it'll be garbage in a few years. Make sure it's about 3 inches.
Yeah, and the thickness is important.
The thickness of the asphalt should be about 3 inches, and it should be minimum about 6 to 8 inches of crush, which is that small stone that they put underneath, they compact. Yeah. So you'll see, because they'll remove the driveway, and then they're gonna dig a hole and they're gonna fill it with that rock, with the crush. If you see that they're only putting a thin layer, you tell them to stop. No, you gotta put more. It's gonna be minimum 6 inches.
Gotcha.
Right?
Perfect.
And then if you want to do, for example, interlock, for a driveway that size, you're probably looking at about 14,000, right?
For interlock.
For interlock.
It gets pricier.
Concrete looks nice. It's low maintenance, but if it's not done right, you will get a lot of cracking and stress marks. And then to repair concrete is it's a lot more expensive, because you could just patch it, but then you're gonna have an ugly patch running down the concrete, right? Your best bang for your buck is asphalt, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, what would you recommend?
Especially for rental properties, you don't want to go fancy with a rental property. Just good old asphalt is enough.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. So Trami has a question. She says, how much does it cost to replace wood paneling walls from the 60s and 70s? Sorry.
I mean, it really depends on the square footage that you're trying to remove. It could be anywhere from $3 to $9 a square foot. You might be even, that's just not to remove, but that's to remove. Most likely, if you have that, you're gonna have plaster behind it. So it's to remove all that and then add new drywall and then mud it and paint it, right? If it's just removing the paneling and just fixing it up, it shouldn't be more than, I don't know, $1 a foot. Not even, maybe 50 cents a square foot, if that.
Yeah. Also, I wonder if her question is more like buying new paneling, because just so you know, that drywall is much cheaper than wood paneling.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, a sheet of drywall costs you $13, $14 if you're a do-it-yourselfer. If you buy a wood paneling, you're looking at $40 for the same width, right? A 4 foot by 8 foot panel.
Yeah, so that's also good to keep in mind, because she said replace, so maybe that meant like she wants to use other wood paneling.
Yeah.
So Dominic has a question. My partner on my property wants to change the railing because the spokes are a bit wide, which can lead to child putting their head in between and getting injured. Is this something that needs to be changed? It's going to cost around $1,200 and take 2 weeks.
So municipalities and stuff have different bylaws on what your spokes need to be in the width and all that stuff. If a small child could fit in there and you have small children in the house, $1,200 is nothing to spend comparable to to a child getting injured or any of that. So I would definitely recommend it. If you're doing a railing for $1,200, that's also a pretty good deal. You guys are getting good deals. It shouldn't take 2 weeks. You're looking more at. I mean, I can't see what you need to do. But normally to change a railing, 2 days, 3 days max, unless you're removing the steps, changing the steps and all that stuff.
Or maybe getting custom railings.
Could be, yeah.
And that's why it takes 2 weeks.
But for $1,200 for the safety of a kid, even if it was $2,000, $3,000, I would still recommend it. But check your bylaws, check what the allowance is on different cities and building codes, right?
Yeah. Anyone else have a question? Okay, so Debbie has another question, and she is looking to save money in the basement. So she was wondering what you could advise her to kind of, I guess, be more cost effective in materials. And they're doing it themselves. So they're looking in the material sense, like where they can, like use, not like, like not to say cheaper, but like, where they can kind of drop the price and things.
So if you're gonna be doing a basement, I strongly recommend that you use a vinyl flooring. Now they have all sorts of vinyl. You can submerge that stuff for 20 years and it won't warp, crack, open, or any of that stuff.
Submerging water.
Sorry. To be honest with you, if you want to save money, go to a building supplier. Don't go to a Home Depot. Don't go to Lowe's or any of that kind of stuff, because they'll charge you, 40% markup on whatever it is that you're buying. Look for for example, like I shop a lot at Bernardi's. I shop at Tamarack Lumber. I have my hardwood suppliers, so my hardwood outlets. You got to shop around. The best thing to do is shop around. And like I said, for example, if you need one piece, okay, you can go to a Home Depot or a big box store. But if you want to save some money, go to a supplier. You don't even have to go there. You could call them and be like, hey, by the way, how much is your drywall? How much is your flooring? Check out the different options of floorings, different thickness, different materials, different width, different planks. Also, if you're doing it yourself, find out if they have discontinued flooring. Right? Let's say you need 500 square feet of flooring. Ask if they have anything that's being discontinued. That's 500 or 500 plus 10% of flooring that they have. A lot of the times when they discontinue, they'll give it to you for dirt cheap because they can't sell in little patches because they can't order more. So normally they'll say, okay, we have 700 square feet, and we'll give it to you for 80 cents on the dollar, right? So it's always good to check suppliers before you check big box stores. That would be your best way to save on money on materials and stuff. Again, don't cheap out on materials. I don't recommend it because when you go cheap, you'll pay for it at the end. That I guarantee. I get a lot of customers that say, "Oh, just put the cheapest stuff," and then I say, "Okay, well, you got to call somebody else because I will not do it." Because the one thing I don't do is redo. I don't like to redo things. So don't cheap out on materials. You will pay for it at the end. That I can guarantee.
And also, when you're saying cheaping out, like, doesn't mean you need to go high end either.
No,
just
absolutely
make sure
not. Absolutely not.
That is a good quality product.
Yeah. I mean, if they're giving you, if hardwood floor goes for about $3.50, $4 a square foot, and somebody's offering it to you for 25 cents a foot, there's a reason why, right? Do your due diligence, do your research on the product. A lot of the products, you could just go on their website and check their specs, and you compare it with another product. But yeah, I recommend that you don't, never buy the cheapest one. Just go one up.
Yeah. And then so another question. So Debbie, they're doing a duplex and they want to do, I guess, some of the work themselves and obviously have a contractor.
Yeah.
So do you have any tips for them to work together with the contractor, or how to talk to the contractor if they're doing some of the work themselves?
Okay, so I mean, I run into this not that often, but I mean, sometimes people do want to do some of the work themselves. Make sure that you communicate with the contractor. Let them know, like, before you hire them, do a walkthrough, right? Do a walkthrough of what you want to do. You tell them what they need to do and what you want to do. Make sure you're clear on it, because I mean, and be wary of contractors. Myself as a contractor, I hear all the time, some of us are there just to take your money, right? Not all of us, but some of the give a bad name to all contractors, and we hear it all the time. You know, talk to the guy first, right? Talk to them, see if they're knowledgeable. Ask for pictures, ask for references. If possible, if you're doing a big project, right? Ask if you can go to see a client's house. I have some of my clients that, I have some clients that actually, they tell me, like, oh, you want to bring somebody? Let me know, right? Let me know a couple of days in advance. You can bring whoever you want to come look at the job you did. Communication is probably the most important. Be clear on what you want to do and what they need to do. And if you don't like the way the contractor is answering your questions, or you don't like the way that if he's brushing you off, or any of that kind of sense, find another one. You don't have to be tied down to one contractor. Look around, shop around. The best advice I could give you is, just look around and talk to the person first. If even better, if you get recommendations from somebody else, right? Talk to your neighbors, see if they've used a contractor, see if they like them. Normally, when we show up at a street, we go to one house, and then within that year, we've already done 4 or 5 houses, because the neighbors all talk, and then they all just recommend, and then we just kind of intermingle, and then, right? Like, I don't advertise. The only reason why I have business cards is because my wife told me to. Right? Like, all I do is word of mouth, and that's the kind of contractor you should be looking for, someone that does mostly word of mouth and has a solid clientele, right?
Or you can also check out their reviews on Google too.
Yeah, you can check out the reviews on Google, but I mean,
just do your research, basically.
I think it's more important just to have the communication and to talk to them, right?
Yeah. And so and another thing I feel like people should think about when they do it themselves is, I don't know, like, what would you say is simple for someone? I don't know if they've done the work themselves or not, like whatever they're doing, but I don't know, what would you recommend if it's like their first time doing and they want to do themselves? Like, what kind of things should they do?
You can save a lot of money on doing the floors.
Not tiles, right? I feel like tiles, don't do tiles for the first time. You'll screw it up for sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know. my opinion, right?
You could do like a laminate flooring for yourself. The trims, if you have a proper saw, a miter saw, you can do the trims yourself. You save some money on that. The painting, you can always save money and do the painting yourself. I mean, painting is not that easy. A lot of people think you just brush it on, and it's not, but you need practice. What else you can save money on?
And just, I guess, taking into consideration that if you have the tools or not, or that you're gonna have to rent them out if you don't have them to do things, would also be important. And
you can also save a lot of money on the demolition part, right? If you know you're gonna remove all the walls in your bedroom, and this, not the ceiling, but all the walls in the bedroom, you can start a week before you tell the contractor, listen, I'm going to remove all the walls. First, you get the quote of what it is for the whole thing, right? After you get that quote, then you tell the contractor, okay, how much are you going to discount me if I remove this, right? Because if you start off, we see it all the time. If you start off with, oh yeah, we're gonna remove all this, we're gonna make it easier for you, what's the quote? They're gonna give you the same quote, right? And it's sad to say, but a lot of people will give you the same quote. So you always get the quote first, and then you tell them what you want to do and how you can save them some money. And any good contractor will actually advise you on how you can save money and what you can do to help them save money, right?
Mm-hmm. And I guess another thing for demoing that people I feel like don't think about the cost is buying the bins and how much demoing you're doing. Because it may not even be one bin. Like you could probably be like 2-3 bins, and they don't pay attention to that. Could be like a couple thousands of dollars. So just like remembering it, like that's why, like, if you're going to do something yourself, just do a bit of research, because you think you may be saving yourself money and then you may not, because you don't know the process. Or for example, even with flooring, like there's certain layers that you need to put in flooring, like you should do them all. If not, that could create problems. So just making sure if you're going to do something yourself, also do a bit of research, understand what it involves before you actually go and do it yourself, because you may be, you know, doing it, spending the money, and then having to hire an expert to do it because you did it wrong the first time.
Yeah, you would be surprised how much garbage comes out of a little bedroom. Like if you get floorings, like if you remove floorings, you have a mountain of flooring. You're gonna look at the flooring and be like, it's not that much. Once you remove it, you're gonna be like, holy crap, that was a lot of flooring, right? And then like I mean, talk to a contractor.
Communication is key for sure.
Yeah, communication is key.
Does anyone have any other questions? So I think we're all good. We've answered everyone's questions. So I want to thank you for doing this for me. It was really nice that you did this for us, and I think everyone also hopefully enjoyed everything. And so you want to give your contact information in case anyone ever wants some advice or get a quote?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you guys can feel free to call me anytime for any of that stuff. Even if you have questions, any of that, it doesn't bother me at all. I have the patience. Listen, if I can help somebody else out, like don't even hesitate. Call me if you have any questions, any of that stuff. You guys can call me. You can check out my website. It's at GCA Reno.com. Or you can call me directly. My phone number is 647-769-5826. Or you can just shoot me an email, and my email address is GCA-Reno@qualityservice.com.
If you guys want,
if
it makes it easier. And I guess we'll do one last question for Terry. He kind of slipped it in about load bearing walls. Like, how can you tell? I don't think you can tell just by looking, can you?
So just by looking.
Like if it's all covered up?
So for example, it's tricky. I've seen houses where the load bearing wall, like where the beams are coming this way and they switch over and they go this way. It's tricky. For that, I mean, if you want to just to verify where it is, you could look in your attic, see which way your beams are going, and where both the beams join, there should be a wall below it. So your beams, if you look at top view, your beams will be like this, and then you'll have the wall coming this way.
So your wall's going in the opposite direction of your beams. If your wall's like this and your beams are doing this way, that means that that's a load-bearing wall. If your wall
most
is
likely,
most likely
it would mean that it's a load-bearing wall.
Yeah. And a structural engineer, like you'd want
absolutely.
someone involved in that if you think you're going to be removing something
structural. If you're gonna be opening up walls and doing that kind of stuff, get a structural engineer, get a contractor that knows what they're doing, because you might not see it right away, right? Somebody might come and Mickey Mouse it, and then they'll open it up and it'll make it look beautiful. And then within a year, 2 years, your house is just gonna start to do one of these and sag and sag and sag, and then your drywall is gonna pop. First thing you're gonna notice is little screw holes are gonna pop out from the drywall. Then you're gonna get cracks, and to fix that, you're gonna be.
And it could be very dangerous because if you have a second floor and you're doing this,
could be, yes.
Oh my God,
if somebody doesn't know what they're doing, it could be very dangerous.
Yeah, get that structural engineer involved.
Yeah. But if you want to know, if you just want to know if it is or not, look at the beams. You can look from the basement too if your basement's not finished. Look where your beams cross. You'll see either your metal beam or wood beams, whatever beams you have in your house. Normally where they join, you will have a structural wall. You'll have a load-bearing wall. Also, I mean, YouTube, you can YouTube it. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, especially even for the rentals, for the do-it-yourselfers. It helps, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that can go on YouTube and they'll show you step by step how to do it. I wouldn't really mess with structural walls.
Yeah,
If you're a DIYer, I wouldn't do it. I mean, even when we do it, we still get the the structural engineers. They come in and then
verify everything,
we
make sure
verify
everything is
because.
good. And it's not that much compared to usually when you're doing structural. It's such a big change to the house that it's really not that much money in the big scheme of things. So it's like worth it to just get that structural engineer in. And
I
most likely
recommend it.
that you guys know, we're probably going to be having like one of our next coming guests is going to be a structural engineer. So I mean, you can ask them questions too. But thanks so much, guys, for coming and joining us. It was really nice to have you guys. And thank you, Giancarlo, for doing this for me and for us.
Yep.
I hope you guys got a lot of value from this. And we'll see you guys at the next meetup.
Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
Thank you.
Don't forget, any questions, don't hesitate. You can contact me anytime.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.